Kyle, you watch the game. And the game is so very interesting. The game has changed. And when you watch European hockey and you're watching the KHL and you're watching all this stuff, you can watch it on TV now if you have a stick and all that other stuff. It's a different game now. These players are coming from Russia and Sweden and Finland. They're more stick handling than they are
a lot more
trying
skill.
Yeah. When it comes to just trying to put the puck on the net and trying to deflect, something like Anders Lee does, or even Dino Ciccarelli when he played, and Brett Hull and all those guys, all the great offensive
Kyle
players.
even
of the
go
90s.
that far back to even?
He remember. He knows.
Oh, of course.
He's a hockey
of
fan.
course.
He's a hockey fan. So, do you like the game for what it is today? Be honest, because honestly, I like the game of hockey in the 90s just as much as I like the basketball game of the 90s. It's definitely transitioned. Do you like the game, or do you think the game's transitioned into being a little bit more, I wouldn't use the word reckless, but boring?
First off, I listened to your last segment, and I'm 100% on your side. Basketball in the 90s is so much better. I watched
down.
the USA soccer game today, and the flopping is just like the NBA. The bitching and moaning to the referees is just
They're
like
all
the
soft.
NBA.
Actually, it's probably worse than the NBA.
It's all the same thing.
They're all soft. LeBron James ruined the league.
I came and watch a Laker game because LeBron talks to the ref more than he talks to teammate. It's insane. I watched the Knicks game earlier tonight, and Julius Randle, anytime he even goes up for a layup, he immediately turns around. No matter what happens, he immediately turns around and looks at the refs.
Just to watch him miss a free throw.
I'll always root for the Knicks. I hope eventually in my lifetime I see them win something.
Maybe.
But it's tough to watch. It's tough to watch. Rather watch St. John's than the Knicks right now. But anyway.
Don't worry. Errol's according to our last guess, Errol's going to be reincarnated in 2060 as a 21-year-old. Maybe the Knicks will win then.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, the thing about today's game in the NHL is that it's obviously more skilled guys. We're seeing guys, 5'9", 5'10", that, Marty St. Louis was kind of like the groundbreaker, like Theo Fleury, where those two guys were like, groundbreakers for the size. Now you see guys like Cole Caulfield that's 5'7", that can play in the NHL. So it's not as physical of a game anymore. It's a lot more skill. And I think for the NHL to build its brand, it needs to have these kind of guys. You're not going to build your brand off of a Ryan Reeves fight. As much as I want to see him drop the gloves every night and beat the crap out of someone, and it's awesome for a YouTube clip or whatever it is, people aren't really paying attention to that anymore. I would love it. I love the hits.
I also feel concussions have also that part of the ways of a lot of fighting, which is, respectable. It's understandable.
Yeah, and I listen, on my show, I've had so many different fighters from the 90s. I've had Ryan Vandenbush, who ended Nick Kyprios' career with a fight that he hit the guard ice on his face. I had Nick Kyprios I had Nick on the show, and they both talked. It was so weird to talk to the two guys separately about that incident, because that was such a special incident. When people look at fighting, they go back to that fight, and that's always viewed. Mm-hmm. So when people always say, "Oh, do you think fighting belongs in hockey?" Yes. Fighting needs to be in hockey. That's how they police themselves. Same as the way as you can hit someone with a pitch in baseball. You got to continue to police the game somewhat. You can't just get rid of everything in general. But for my kid, when he grows up, he wants to see Zegras go around the net and do the Michigan. That's a cool thing kids want to see. Now all these, old hockey heads, they hate that. They hate that there's like Tortorella said the other day that, all the new crap, just dump and chase. He still does dump and chase. That's why you love Torts. But, there comes a point where you need to win. I think the Rangers had a very good mix of skill and physicality last year. I think you've seen it with Tampa, where they have guys who can grind. They have guys like Maroon who can knock the crap out of you. They have guys like Steven Stamkos who shoots the puck 100 miles an hour. There's a very good balance on these teams, and I think the good teams have that kind of balance of skill and physicality, because when it comes to playoffs, for whatever reason, the ice gets a little shorter, the boards get a little tighter, and everyone is, a lot more physical. And if you have a team that just goes out there and tries to, go east and west on you and not north and south, you're not going to win the playoffs. And I think that's something that the Rangers have now learned from when I was last on the show. They had a lot of, these skill guys, and they got a lot tougher. The Islanders are a team that can muck it up as well. They got that great fourth line, which is built for the playoffs. Every time the playoffs, those guys, Clutterbuck, Martin, those guys all come to play in the playoffs. All of a sudden, you see their hit numbers go up from 5 to game to like 8 to 9. It's crazy. But yes, I would like to see a little more physicality in the game. I hate that if Jacob Trouba lays someone out, he has to fight someone right afterwards because it's a big deal all of a sudden. Or that fan base now thinks he's a dirty player because he.
Well, I think it depends on who he hits.
Well, yeah, he took out
that
Crosby
plays a
last
lot
year,
of part, right? It's on who you
Scott
hit.
Stevens used to behead guys on the blue line every night. You know what I mean? And there was no
Different
one
game.
said boo about it in the 90s. You know what I mean? The Rangers had Jeff Bukaboom, who used to literally two-hand stick guys in the mouth if they even looked at Mike Richter in the crease. Those kind of guys, they don't exist really anymore. And if they ever did that now, they get thrown out of the league. So it's obviously changed. Like you said, the head injuries is something they're really looking at. George Parros in the league office now was a fighter, and I think that's something that he kind of really
needs
protects.
To go.
Yeah, but he really protects the players because he had head injuries because he was a fighter. So I think he's the main guy who's trying to clean it up. But yeah, I think for a team to be successful now, they have to play that old kind of 90s style, grind it out, playoff type hockey, but have the skill guys to do it. But yeah, I think there is some excitement in the game that is lost on that. Like you're not going to have, after I came on, it was the Caps Rangers whole fight thing, and they kind of started because skill guys were on the ice against the guy who was tougher than them, and it's just kind of what happened. But again, the Rangers policed it themselves. They did the whole fight, and then it's a gone issue after that. But I like the NBA is different. The NBA, I mean, there's no more Charles Oakleys. Like, there's no more animals down low that will just throw someone around. If they do that now, they'll get suspended for 5 games
or banned from the Garden, like James Dolan did 6 years ago.
Yeah, but I think So I think that's where the NHL is kind of going toward the skill game, and the NHL needs that because they need to start marketing these guys and these younger players. You can't continue. They can't advertise Ovechkin anymore, obviously, because the whole Russians thing. So that he's gone. Crosby's Crosby's getting up there in age, so they have to start turning to some of these young players. And the young guys are all the guys that are
Speaking of young players, we are talking to USA Hockey Rangers writer and host of Broadway Hat podcast, Kyle Hall, the United States hockey team. And there is a hockey player that I've been watching. I've been, hearing a lot about for USA, Luke Hughes, who was drafted in 2021 by the New Jersey Devils in the first round. We all know about Jack. Quinn over there is in Vancouver. Practically all 3 of these guys are going to be stars. Now 2 of them are in New Jersey. Obviously, Quinn got that extension. After that extension...
So did Jack.
I know, but I'm talking about Quinn. Do you believe that obviously both these brothers, all of them were first-round draft picks, by the way. I was there for Quinn and Jack. I was there for both those drafts. I talked to both of them. Quinn's a lot smaller than he is, when you watch him play hockey, you watch him without skates. He's not that tall of a guy, but fantastic talent.
Kind of like Fox.
Yes. Do you think that when his contract is up in Vancouver, you think that maybe he scoots over there to New Jersey to play with his 2 brothers?
I don't know. I tell you what, how crazy is that though? That all 4, all 3, and there's a younger one too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, there is. And he's the best
that's
one.
also good.
And they're saying he's the best one out of all of them.
Yeah, that's also good. So, and all 3 of them trained together with a bunch of NHL guys in the offseason. And the youngest one, I think, is also training with them too. So, like, think about that. Like, it's always the youngest brother. Like, I always joke around my youngest brother at 3. Like, my old football coach used to talk about, like, he's the toughest on the team because he got beat up, for his entire life. And imagine that kid has been beat up his entire life with sticks by older brothers who are top 5 picks in the NHL. How good he's going to be. But, Quinn, I had Doug Litzer on my show who played for the 94 Rangers, was a legend with the Canucks. He had the record for the most points in Canucks history as a defenseman and he told me right there, and it was Hughes was a young player. He goes, this kid's going to break all my records, guaranteed. He's a stud. I just think he's going to get lost in Vancouver. No one back east covers Vancouver. So I think if he wants to build his brand, he's going to see his brothers in New Jersey. They're going to be playing the metropolitan area, get the limelight here. Especially the Devils keep on going. They're going. This team's going to be very, very good for years to come. I think it would be a no-brainer for him to try to come east.
I think so,
Johnny
too.
Gaudreau. Johnny Gaudreau wanted to come east because of his family, quote unquote, but no one covers really Calgary. Obviously they care about them up there in Western Canada, but he wanted to come play where people can see him play. And I loved the Islanders fan booing him the other night. That was hilarious. Every time he touched the puck, and then after the game, he's like, "Lou didn't even call me. I don't even know why they're booing." But if he had ended up in New Jersey, how good would they be now? I mean, they'd be better of a team. But
he was never going to the Islanders, even if the Islanders called him. Stop.
He wanted to go to Philly. He wanted to go to Philly, and Philly
didn't want to be an Islander. Stop it.
Nobody said they were smart.
Johnny Gaudreau never wanted to be an Islander. That's why Lou never called him. It's ridiculous. And everybody was taking shots all over social media about Lou. He's lost himself. He's old. He's this. He's that. He doesn't know what he's doing. And where are we at right now? No, nobody's saying anything right now when they're in second place, tied in second place in the Eastern Conference. I know it's early, but this team is a lot better than anybody thought. They got a great goalie, they have a great defense, and they have 4 really good lines. Every single line is scoring and doing the things that they need to do to keep it in the game. I think they're missing one offensive talent. If Lou can find, and we've seen Lou do this at the trade deadline, he finds the guy that he feels fits the best with this team. He hasn't found a sniper. That is the mistake. If he finds that guy, the Islanders win the Stanley Cup, hands down. If they get a sniper in here, a guy that could score 35, 40 goals, and you put him with Barzal, the Islanders win the Stanley Cup. I don't think anybody is going to beat them. But if they don't have that, I still think the Islanders could go to the Eastern Conference Finals. They could. I listen to all these people, all these Boston fans. Boston's playing great hockey. Okay, nobody's taking it away. They're really good. They're really fantastic. They're beatable. They're beatable every single game. Okay, I've watched 5 of their games this year, and besides one of them where they demolished, I think they won 5-1. All the games were 3-2, 4-3, 2-1. Okay. These teams were in the game, okay? So, and by the way, if you look at their schedule and what Boston's played in the first month of hockey, it's not a hard schedule. So
yeah, but also the first month of hockey,
I'm
they
just
had a
saying,
lot of injuries.
I understand that, but their schedule wasn't that hard. So to sit here and say, "Oh my God, they're awesome," what the Devils are doing, that's special. What the Devils are doing, because they're beating good teams. They're not just beating okay teams. They're beating top-end teams, and they're beating them badly. They're kicking their asses. So that's why I'm not taking shots at the Boston Bruins. I think they're a good team. And what I tell you, they're probably going to be the number 1 seed. Who cares? Because when it comes down to the playoffs and when it comes to the nitty and the gritty, that team is going to have to go up against those teams like the Islanders, who Jeff says blows. But I remember the last time the Islanders played the Boston Bruins in the playoffs, what happened? What happened, Jeff? Okay, so I don't want to hear it. Oh, it's not the same team. It's not the same coach. Go fly a kite, Jeff. Go bother somebody else. But anyways, we are talking to USA Hockey Rangers writer, host of Broadway Hat Podcast, Kyle Hall. Kyle, when you look at United States hockey, do you think that it's really transitioning? Do you think United States hockey is amongst the top of the world, like with the Finlands, the Russians, and the Canadians?
Yeah, they're the number 2 program right now in the world. It's Canada, then the U.S. Russia, I think you look at the younger talent, is not as good as what the U.S. is putting out there right now. It's going to be really tough the next couple of years. I've talked to a ton of draft people about this, to evaluate the Russian talent, because they're banned from all these world tournaments now. So coming into this draft class, a lot of the top Russian players dropped because they didn't get to see these kids really. 1, with COVID, there was all these restrictions, and 2, now they're banned from these tournaments. So when they did see them, they were seeing them on a limited basis. So it's kind of like, okay, we knew what they were at 15, 16. How do they develop at 17, 18? No one really knows. So it could be good for teams like the Islanders, Rangers, who have had success finding players from Russia like Sorokin and Shesterkin late in 4th round picks and turn into really good players. So that can help teams further on. But I look at the USA right now, young talent. Zegras right now is unbelievable. He's playing great out in Anaheim. Troy Terry's another player out in Anaheim, young player, scored 40 goals last year. Unbelievable young talent. Tage Thompson's the underrated guy up in Buffalo. He's 6'7", monster, rifle, 100-mile-an-hour slap shot. Ridiculous. I covered him in the World Cup 2 years ago. When I saw him out there, I was like, this guy looks pretty good. And every guy I talked to the team said he's going to be a stud. And he had like 17 points that year in like 50-something games. I'm like, this is the guy everyone's talking about? Had 8 points in 8 games in the tournament, whatever it was. Since then, he's been a point-per-game player the last 2 years. I mean, even the younger players like Cole Caulfield's been playing really well.
I like him.
And then you have Jack Eichel, who's now finally healthy. Hopefully he's going to finally get a chance to play for Team USA. Feels like every time
he's having a good
an
year.
Opportunity to play, he's hurt or anything. He's playing great. Jason Robertson down in Dallas is an underrated guy who's one of the best top goal scorers in the NHL now. Matthews, another young guy.